L.A. Noir, The Struggle for the Soul of America's Most Seductive City, by John Buntin. Narrated by Kirby Heyborne. Copyright 2009 by John Buntin. This unabridged audiobook is recorded by arrangement with Three Rivers Press, an imprint of the Crown Publishing Group, a division of Random House Incorporated, and was produced in the year 2012 by Tantor Media Incorporated, which holds the copyright thereto. This is the city, Los Angeles, California. I work here. I'm a cop. Sergeant Joe Friday, Dragnet. A cop syndicate rules this city with an iron hand. Mickey Cohen, gangster. The only time to worry is when they tell the truth about you. William H. Parker, Chief, Los Angeles Police Department. Prologue. Other cities have histories. Los Angeles has legends. Advertised to the world as the Eden at the end of the western frontier, the settlement the Spaniards named El Pueblo de Nuestra Señora la Reina de Los Angeles turned out to be something very different. Not the beatific Our Lady, the Queen of the Angels, advertised by its name, but rather a dark, dangerous blonde. She got up slowly and swayed towards me in a tight black dress that didn't reflect any light. She had long thighs, and she walked with a certain something I hadn't often seen in bookstores. She was an ash blonde. Her smile was tentative, but could be persuaded to be nice. Raymond Chandler, The Big Sleep. For more than 60 years, writers and directors from Raymond Chandler and Billy Wilder to Roman Polanski and James Ellroy have explored L.A.'s origins, its underbelly, and, yes, its blondes in fiction and films like The Big Sleep, Double Indemnity, Chinatown, and L.A. Confidential. In the process, they created the distinctive worldview known as noir, where honor is in short supply, and where Los Angeles invariably proves to be a femme fatale. Yet this preoccupation with the mythic past has obscured something important: the true history of noir Los Angeles. For more than 40 years, from Prohibition through the Watts Riots, politicians, gangsters, businessmen, and policemen engaged in an often violent contest for control of the city. Their struggle shaped the history of Los Angeles, the future of policing, and the course of American politics. In time, two primary antagonists emerged. The first was William H. Parker, Los Angeles's greatest and most controversial chief of police. His nemesis was Los Angeles's most colorful criminal, featherweight boxer turned gangster, Mickey Cohen. In 1920, Los Angeles surpassed San Francisco as California's largest city. It was a moment of triumph for Los Angeles Times publisher Harry Chandler, who had arrived 4 decades earlier when the City of Angels was a dusty, water-starved pueblo of 10,000 souls. Chandler and his associates worked tirelessly to build a metropolis, relentlessly promoting the fledgling city and ruthlessly securing the water needed to support it, a campaign made famous by the film Chinatown. Yet 1920 was also the year that witnessed the emergence of a major threat to their authority. The threat came from Prohibition. For years, Harry Chandler and the so-called business barons had supplied local politicians with the advertising, the publicity, and the money they needed to reach the city's new residents. In exchange, they gained power over the city government. But with the imposition of Prohibition, a new force appeared with the money and the desire to purchase L.A.'s politicians, the criminal underworld. To suppress it, the business community turned to the Los Angeles Police Department. The underworld also looked to the LAPD for protection. In 1922, Bill Parker and Mickey Cohen entered this drama as bit players in the struggle for control of Los Angeles. In 1937, Parker emerged as a protege of Los Angeles's top policeman, while Mickey became the enforcer for LA's top gangster. In 1950, they became direct rivals, each dedicated to the other's destruction. Two characters more different from each other would be hard to imagine. Parker arrived in Los Angeles in 1922 from Deadwood, South Dakota, a proud, ambitious 17-year-old, one of the tens of thousands of migrants who were moving west to Southern California in what the journalist Carrie McWilliams described as the largest internal migration in the history of the American people. He hoped to follow in the footsteps of his grandfather, a pioneering prosecutor on the western frontier, and make a career for himself in the law. But instead of opportunity, Parker found in Los Angeles temptation. Instead of becoming a prominent attorney, he became a cop, a patrolman in the Los Angeles Police Department. Coldly cerebral, Star Trek creator Gene Roddenberry, a one-time LAPD officer and Parker speechwriter, reputedly based the character Mr. Spock on his former boss. Intolerant of fools and famously incorruptible in a department that was famously corrupt, Parker persevered. Gradually, he rose. Between 1934 and 1937, he masterminded a campaign to free the police department from the control of gangsters and politicians, only to see his efforts undone by a blast of dynamite and a sensational scandal. Then, in 1950, another scandal, this one involving 114 Hollywood pleasure girls, made Parker chief of the Los Angeles Police Department, a position he would hold for 16 controversial years. In contrast, Mickey Cohen wasn't troubled by self-examination until much later in life, when he would grapple with the question of going straight. Born Meyer Harris Cohen in 1913 in the Brownsville section of Brooklyn, Mickey arrived in Los Angeles with his mother and sister at the age of 3. By the age of 6, he was hustling newspapers on the streets of Boyle Heights. At the age of 9, he began his career in armed robbery with an attempt to heist a movie theater in downtown L.A. using a baseball bat. His talent with his fists took the diminutive brawler to New York City to train as a featherweight boxer. His skill with a .38 took him into the rackets, first in Cleveland, then in Al Capone's Chicago. In 1937, Mickey returned to Los Angeles to serve as gangster Benjamin Bugsy Siegel's right-hand man. It was a job that put him on a collision course with Bill Parker. For 3 decades, from the Great Depression to the Watts Riots, Parker and Cohen, the policeman and the gangster, would engage in a struggle for power, first as lieutenants to older, more powerful men, then directly with each other, and finally with their own instincts and desires. In 1956, Chief Parker's war against Mickey Cohen and organized crime in L.A. attracted the attention of a young Senate investigator with political ambitions named Robert Kennedy. It also antagonized FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover and created an extra-legal, wiretap-driven style of policing that eerily prefigures the tactics being used in today's War on Terror. In the 1960s, it would incite the Watts Riots and help propel Ronald Reagan into the governor's mansion in Sacramento. Their contest would involve some of the most powerful and colorful figures of the 20th century. Press magnates Harry Chandler and his nemesis William Randolph Hearst, studio head Harry Cohn of Columbia, entertainers Jack Webb, Frank Sinatra, Lana Turner, and Sammy Davis Jr., and civil rights leaders Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. The outcome of their struggle would change the history of Los Angeles, set race relations in America on a dangerous new path, and chart a problematic course for American policing. Parker and Cohen's struggle for control of the city also changed them. Ultimately, like any good noir tale, the story of the rivalry between the young hoodlum with a second-grade education who became the king of the L.A. underworld and the obstinate young patrolman from Deadwood who created the modern LAPD brings us back to the question that Los Angeles always seems to pose. Is Our Lady, the Queen of the Angels, the dark angel, or do we simply bring our own darkness to her? Part 1. The Fallen City. 1. The Mickey Mouse Mafia. A dead, rotten law enforcement setup rules in this county and city with an iron hand. LAPD Sergeant Charlie Stoker, 1950. Mickey Cohen was not a man used to being shaken down. Threatened with handguns, blasted with shotguns, strafed on occasion by a machine gun, yes. Firebombed and dynamited? Sure. But threatened, extorted, hit up for $20,000? No. Anyone who read the tabloids in post-World War II Los Angeles knew that extortion was Mickey's racket, along with bookmaking, gambling, loan sharking, slot machines, narcotics, union agitation, and a substantial portion of the city's other illicit pastimes. In the years following Benjamin Bugsy Siegel's ill-fated move to Las Vegas, Mickey Cohen had become the top mobster on the West Coast, and the tart-tongued, sharp-dressed, pint-sized gangster whom the more circumspect newspapers described tactfully as a prominent figure in the sporting life world, hadn't gotten there by being easily intimidated, certainly not by mid-level police functionaries. Yet in October 1948, that is precisely what the head of the Los Angeles Police Department Vice Squad set out to do. Cohen was no stranger to the heat. During his first days in Los Angeles as Bugsy Siegel's enforcer, he had been instructed to squeeze Eddie Niels, the proprietor of the Clover Club. Located on the Sunset Strip, an unincorporated county area just outside of Los Angeles city limits, the Clover Club was Southern California's poshest gaming joint. It reputedly paid the L.A. County Sheriff's Department a small fortune for protection. The squad that provided it, led by Detective George Iron Man Contreras, had a formidable reputation. People who crossed it died. According to Cohen, one member of the unit had been the triggerman on 11 killings, so when Niels sicked Contreras's men on Cohen, he undoubtedly expected that the sheriff's men would scare Mickey stiff. Contreras tried. Cohen was picked up and brought in to receive a warning. If he didn't lay off Niels, the next warning would come in the form of a bullet to the head. Mickey wasn't impressed. A few nights later, he sought out Contreras's top gunman. I looked him up and said to him, "Let me tell you something. To me, you're no cop. Being no cop, I got a right to kill you. So come prepared. The next time I see you coming to me, I'm going to hit you between the eyes." It was an effective warning. He felt I was sincere, Mickey later reported. The cops backed down. Until now. The fact of the matter was, Mickey Cohen was in an uncharacteristically vulnerable position that fall. 2 months earlier, on Wednesday, August 18th, as Cohen was putting the final touches on his newest venture, a swank men's clothing shop on Sunset Boulevard named Michael's Haberdashery, 3 gunmen had charged into the store and opened fire, wounding 2 Cohen henchmen and killing his top gunman, Hookie Rothman. Mickey himself was in the back bathroom washing his hands, something the obsessive-compulsive gangster did 50 or 60 times a day. Trapped, he hid in a stall atop a toilet, awaiting his death. But instead of checking to see that they'd gotten their man, item number 1 on the professional hitman's checklist, the gunman fled. A few minutes later, the incredulous driver of the gunman's crash car saw Mickey scurry to safety out the front door. Cohen had survived, but great damage had been done. As Siegel shifted his attention to Las Vegas, Mickey had taken over his old boss's Los Angeles operations, as well as Siegel's organized crime connections back east. The attempted hit on Cohen not only showed that Mickey was vulnerable, it suggested that Bugsy's powerful friends had no particular commitment to his protégé's survival. In short, Mickey looked weak, and in the underworld, weakness attracts predators. So when the head of the LAPD Administrative Vice Squad called just weeks after the attempted rub-out to inform Cohen that they had him down for a $10,000 to $20,000 contribution for the upcoming re-election campaign of incumbent Mayor Fletcher Bowron, Mickey knew what was happening. This was not an opportunity for good old-fashioned graft. Bowron had devoted his career to eradicating the underworld. Rather, this was a sign that the Vice Squad now viewed him as prey rather than predator. Power's a funny thing, Cohen would later muse. Somebody calls your hole card, and if you can't show you aren't bluffing, it's like a dike. One little hole can blow the whole thing. Paying would only confirm his weakness. Cohen refused. Administrative Vice's response was not long in coming. Just after midnight on the evening of January 15th, 1949, 5 officers watched 2 Cadillacs depart from Michael's haberdashery. They set off in pursuit. At the corner of Santa Monica and Ogden Drive, 2 miles west of Los Angeles city limits, the police pulled over the Cadillac containing Cohen, his driver, and Harold Happy Meltzer, a sometime Cohen gunman, who also had a jewelry shop in the same building as Cohen's haberdashery. A firearm was conveniently found on Meltzer, who was arrested. It later disappeared, making it impossible to determine whether or not the gun had been planted. Several days later, Mickey received a phone call offering to settle matters for $5,000. The Vice Squad was sending Cohen one last message: hand over the cash, or the gloves come off. Mickey was furious. For years he had helped cops who got injured on the job and dispensed Thanksgiving turkeys to families in need at division captain's request. He'd given municipal judges valuable horse tips. He'd wined and dined the Administrative Vice Squad's commanding officers, Lieutenant Rudy Wellpot and Sergeant Elmer Jackson, at the Brown Derby and Dave's Blue Room, presented their girlfriends with expensive gifts, and treated them as VIPs at his nightclub hangout on Beverly Boulevard, Slapsy Maxie's. The police had responded by breaking into his new house in Brentwood, stealing his address books, and swaggering around town with almost unbearable arrogance, routinely telling waiters who arrived with the check at the end of evening to send it to Mickey Cohen. It was time to teach the LAPD a lesson it would never forget about who was running this town. The Vice Squad had called his hole card. Now Mickey would show them he was holding the equivalent of a pair of bullets, 2 aces, in the form of a recording that tied the Vice Squad to a 36-year-old red-headed ex-prostitute named Brenda Allen. Brenda Allen was Hollywood's most prosperous madam, in part because she was so cautious. Rather than take on the risks that came with running a bawdy house, Allen relied on a telephone exchange service to communicate with her clients who were vetted with the utmost care. While Allen would occasionally insert chaste ads in actors' directories or distribute her phone number to select cabbies, bartenders, and bellhops, she prided herself on serving the creme de la creme of Los Angeles. It was rumored that she even ran a Dun & Bradstreet check on prospective customers to ensure their suitability. Those who were accepted were rewarded with Allen's full and carefully considered attention. All of her girls were analyzed as to their more intimate characteristics, which were then carefully noted on file cards for cross-tabulation with her clients' preferences. The selection Allen offered was considerable. By 1948, she had 114 pleasure girls in her harem. She also had a most unusual partner and lover, Sergeant Jackson of the LAPD Administrative Vice Squad, the same policeman who was trying to shake down Mickey Cohen. Needless to say, Sergeant Jackson's connection to Brenda Allen was not common knowledge. Even someone as well-informed as Mickey Cohen might never have learned of it, but for the fact that another member of the police department had recently blackmailed Mickey with a transcription of certain sensitive conversations that Mickey had conducted at home. The shakedown tipped Mickey off to the fact that the LAPD had gotten a bug into his house. So he asked his friend Barney Ruditsky for help. Ruditsky, a former NYPD officer, was now Hollywood's foremost private eye. He specialized in documenting the infidelities of the stars, then, as now, a business that relied heavily on illegal electronic surveillance. Cohen asked Ruditsky if he could recommend someone to sweep his house in Brentwood for eavesdropping devices. Ruditsky could. An electronics whiz named Jimmy Vouse. Vouse found the bug, and Mickey hired him on the spot. Soon thereafter, Vouse let Mickey in on a little secret. He was also a wiretapper for a sergeant on the Hollywood Vice Squad. Vouse told Cohen he had recordings linking Sergeant Jackson to Brenda Allen. That information was Cohen's ace in the hole. He decided to play it at henchman Happy Meltzer's trial. The trial began on May 5, 1949. In his opening statement, attorney Sam Rummel laid out Meltzer's defense. "We will prove through testimony that the two men first sought $20,000, then $10,000, then $5,000 from Cohen in return for their promise to quit harassing him," Rummel declared. As a defense, this was ho-hum stuff. Gangsters were always insisting they'd been framed. But when Cohen appeared with sound expert Jimmy Vouse and a mysterious sound recording machine, the press took notice, especially after Cohen confidentially informed them that he had recordings that would blow this case right out of court. The timing of Cohen's accusation was potentially explosive. Incumbent Mayor Fletcher Bowron was up for re-election on June 1st. The mayor had based his entire re-election campaign on his record of keeping Los Angeles's underworld closed and the city government clean. Now Mickey was claiming that he had evidence that would show that senior police officials were on the take. Fortunately for Mayor Bowron, most of the city's newspapers strongly supported his re-election. So did the county grand jury impaneled every year to investigate municipal wrongdoing. A mistrial was hastily declared. Cohen's allegations received only light coverage. Mayor Bowron was handily re-elected. Only then did the Los Angeles Daily News break the story. Big expose tells Vice police link. Inside story tells Brenda's close relations with the police by Sergeant Charles Stoker. It turned out that Vouse's contact on the Hollywood Vice Squad, Sergeant Charles Stoker, had gone before the Criminal Complaints Committee of the county grand jury the day before Cohen and Vouse showed up in court with the wire recordings. There, Stoker had told the committee about overhearing Brenda Allen's conversations with Sergeant Jackson. It then emerged that Sergeant Guy Rudolph, confidential investigator for the chief of police, had gotten wind of Jackson's connection to Allen 14 months earlier and had asked Police Department technician Ray Pinker to set up another wiretap. But that investigation had mysteriously stalled, and the recordings had then disappeared. Spurred by these revelations and by Cohen's charges, the county grand jury opened an investigation. In mid-June, it began subpoenaing police officers. Chief Clarence B. Horrell insisted that he had never been informed of the allegations swirling around the Vice Squad. High-ranking officers stepped forward to insist that he had been. Brenda Allen volunteered that Sergeant Stoker and Jackson had both been on the take. The head of the LAPD gangster squad abruptly retired. Every day brought a new revelation. The Daily News revealed that the LAPD had broken into Mickey's house in Brentwood and installed wiretaps. Columnist Floribel Muir accused Mayor Bowron of personally authorizing the operation and implied that the transcriptions were being used for purposes of blackmail. Shamefaced, Mayor Bowron and Chief Horrell were forced to concede that they had okayed a break-in. What was worse was that no charges against Cohen had come of it. On June 28th, Chief Horrell announced his retirement. 1 month later, the grand jury indicted Lieutenant Wellpot, Sergeant Jackson, Assistant Chief Joseph Reed, and Chief of Police C.B. Horrell for perjury. Cohen had won his bet, if he could survive to collect. Just a few weeks later, Mickey was driving home to his house in Brentwood for dinner with his wife, LaVaughn, and the actor George Raft. Mickey had outfitted his $150,000 home at 513 Moreno Avenue with the most advanced security gear of the time, including an electronic eye that could detect intruders and trigger floodlights. The goal was to illuminate anyone who approached the house, but of course the security system also illuminated him when he got home in the evening. This was a serious problem when there was a hitman hiding in the empty lot next door, as there was that night. As Mickey started to swing into his driveway and the lights came on, the gunman opened fire, pumping slugs into Mickey's car. Mickey dropped to the floorboard. Without looking over the dashboard, he wrenched his blue Caddy back onto the road and floored it. He made it about 2 blocks before beaching the car on a curb. Fortunately, the gunman was gone, so Mickey went home. Despite bleeding from cuts inflicted by the shattered glass, Mickey waved off the questions about what had happened and insisted on proceeding with dinner, New York strip and apple pie, Raft's favorite. The actor would later say that Mickey had looked a little mussed up. Cohen didn't report the matter to the police. Why advertise his vulnerability further? The attack might never have come to light but for a tip from Cohen's auto body shop to the police and Mickey's decision to commission a $25,000 armored Cadillac and test it at the police academy firing range. When the press broke the story, Cohen replied nonchalantly, "Well, where else? You can't test it by opening fire on the street, for Christ's sake." Posed before his massive new armored car, the sad-eyed 5'3" gangster, 5'5" in lifts, looked like nothing so much as Mickey Mouse. Gangsters in other cities marveled about Mickey's good luck and sniggered about L.A.'s Mickey Mouse Mafia. Still, someone clearly was trying to kill him, albeit rather ineptly. It might have seemed like a good time to lie low, but that was a feat Cohen seemed constitutionally incapable of. Thanks to the tabloids, Mickey was a celebrity, one of the biggest in town, and he acted the part, courting the press, squiring budding starlets around town, although in private his tastes inclined more to exotic dancers, and frequenting hot nightclubs like Ciro's, the Trocadero, and the Mocambo. The evening of Tuesday, July 19th, 1949, was a typical one for Mickey. After dining with Artie Samish, chief lobbyist for the state's liquor interests and one of the most powerful men in Sacramento, Mickey and his party of henchmen, starlets, and reporters repaired to one of his favorite hangouts, Sherry's, a nightclub on the Sunset Strip that was owned by his friend Barney Ruditsky. Standing watch outside was a curious addition to Mickey's crew, Special Agent Harry Cooper from the State Attorney General's office. After the attempted hit at Michael's haberdashery, the L.A. County Sheriff's Department had insisted, somewhat counterintuitively, on disarming Cohen's men and checking them frequently for weapons to make sure they stayed unarmed. As a result, Mickey was essentially unprotected. Samish had arranged to provide a little extra protection in the form of Special Agent Cooper. By 3:30 a.m., Mickey was ready to call it a night. Ruditsky went outside and did a quick sweep of the parking lot. Everything looked clear. two of Cohen's men went to bring around his...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?